everyone, welcome back to another episode of Beneath the Lift Tower. My name's Charles McGilvray, and as always, I'm joined by Jess Keble and Simon Stacey. We're a fans podcast by fans for fans of Northampton Saints. This is another one of our special interview editions where we will be joined shortly by James Ramm, which we're very looking forward to. But before then, we're going to have a bit of a chat ahead of the game of the weekend against the Newcastle Red Bulls, and probably discuss a bit of England or Six Nations stuff as well, but we won't touch too much on it because we want to get James Ramm to you ASAP. How you both doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Good. So should we cover off England quickly?
Yeah, why not? Why not?
I mean, like I said, I'm not an England fan, but if I was an England fan, I would take some positivity out of that. I thought they showed that they could move the ball. They showed that they had a bit of ambition, play with a bit of pace. Finn Smith was the difference. He was so much better. Not to compare against anyone else or anything. He was the missing spark. I think it looked like anyway. He played really well.
Yeah, it was. Just let him loose, didn't they? Finally, it looks like none of this. None of the negative kicking. We did, well, there's quite a few box kicking, but it was, I did say last week as a joke, didn't I? I said, England could actually go over there and win. And if it weren't for one silly mistake right at the end, we would have, and we were Ireland's best friends then, weren't we?
It was like a pendulum of pressure, wasn't it? Like England have played the whole tournament like the world's on their back and they're terrified to do anything, and then they're playing really percentage rugby, and they're playing as if they're getting the stat book out rather than going out there with any intention to play a real proper attacking game. Whereas this was unleash the shackles, go out, play pace, just go out and play. You got nothing to lose. Whereas France started the tournament with like absolute jouet and playing amazing stuff, and then as the tournament's gone on and it's been like clear that they're the champions elect, it just like it sort of shrunk them and contracted them, and that they didn't look half the team against England as they did against Ireland in that first week. It's the pressure of the mental side of the game. I think just in one tournament you can see it there. It just shows how much a mental game rugby is.
It's insane.
It was like, at least in my like recent memory, like from start to finish, like the most bonkers tournament. Like people beating people that you wouldn't have expected, and then like maybe losing heavily. But you're right about like, I feel like with the Italian game, like there was still I suppose a chance that we would have not necessarily like realistic, but there's still like a mathematical chance. And so I think, like I said it last week, like they went in almost like we can't lose this game. Whereas with France, it just felt like their thing was, well, it really doesn't matter at this point. Like, there is absolutely no chance. Like that's completely gone. So, like you said, it almost felt like maybe the pressure of that of like, okay, well, I mean, there was still sort of like history to it, I suppose, because, was it the first time we've ever lost 4 out of 5? But like that almost didn't matter in the end either, really. It was just about, can they actually put a performance on the park? And, they certainly didn't go in trying not to lose it. They went in and they tried to win, and they tried very hard to win. And like I said, they almost came away with it. There are a few things throughout the game where they've gone slightly different. Like maybe it could have been different. I mean, I know everyone likes to say like, it's the tiny mistake at the end, but you miss. And this isn't like Finn's fault. Some of those kicks were really tough, but you miss 6 points here. You ship 21 points when you've got a yellow card. Like all of it just I think added up so that it meant that. It just basically meant that any mistake at the end would have been crucial. Like normally a little mistake at the end of the game isn't crucial, but because we hadn't quite been able to impose ourselves for the full like 80 minutes, it just meant that and look, we all know how good Pollock is. Throwing that ball away at the end probably wasn't the smartest move. He'll learn from it, but then he wasn't the one that gave the penalties away at the end. That was 2 other people, and it's just, you give Thomas Ramos a kick in his half in front of the post, that guy is going to nail it like 100, pretty much 100% of the time. So, but I can also say like objectively, like that was a stunning, like it was an incredible game from start to finish, just in terms of like the rugby that we saw on the pitch. Like, nearly 100 points scored in a Six Nations match. I mean, it was just so entertaining from start to finish. I mean, we think Finn Smith and the way he played is probably the difference for us, but Louis Bielbiere is just the difference for them. In like,
he's just. He's a
He
pure
is
cheat
lit.
code player.
Yeah, it's like that. I always think of it as like there was that really famous like cheat code that you could type in on The Sims that gave you unlimited money, and it's like he's the unlimited try cheat code, isn't he? Like 4 in 1. Like the amount of tries he scored now is more than how many caps he has.
Like
It's
his
ridiculous.
pace is just like when I was very young playing rugby at school, we had a national 200-meter champion at whatever, and it was like he didn't want to play rugby, he didn't like rugby, knew nothing about rugby. Obviously, fastest man alive, so he got picked in the rugby team, and he had no choice. And it was just a case of give the ball to him, and he could score from anywhere on the pitch because he was faster than anyone's ever seen. Right? Biabiri is doing that at international level. Like
Yeah,
he like is unbelievably fast.
yeah.
It's
The thing with him is though, it's not a diss on any of his other game. He doesn't need to do anything else. You just literally the game plan is just like give him the ball and let him run, and that's all they did. He's either a chip through or a quick pass, and he finished. And that was his first ever hat trick. I know he scored 4, but they said
Yeah.
that was his first ever hat trick for France, which is madness. But yeah, it was. Being an England fan, it sucks because it was a bad. But I have to admit that for the rugby, it was the best, probably Six Nations we've had in years and years. Because some of their matches were insane.
I just think the standard wasn't that great across the board, and that leveled it all out a bit. And then
Yeah,
Yeah.
it almost meant that like the mental game became such a key thing in every single match. It's like whoever wanted it more tended to win. Like whatever team was in a position where they need, they wanted it more for whatever reason. A crazy tournament. And focusing on some of the Saints' performances throughout it, I thought, Alex Coles has really come of age. I thought he was excellent. I really hope his injury is too bad. Big Trev absolutely bashing people around. That was really like he's just joyous to watch on rugby field, and to see him do it at that level is just amazing. Tommy's just outrageous in him. Finn, I think Finn proved his point by the end of the tournament. I think he's got the jersey. The only thing like that I would say that's potentially negative, obviously big negative is Mitchell's hamstring injury. But I think so that's hopefully he's all right. But I would say the one thing that his absence meant Ben Spencer came in and he sort of made England's game plan work better because of what he brings. His box kicks were a bit more on the money, actually really made it possible for Roebuck and who was on the other wing? Sorry,
Marley.
Marley.
Murley, yeah. Both of them had real strong games competing, winning the ball back, because the box kicking from Ben Spencer is just outrageous. Do people want to watch box kicking all day? Like, no. Do you want to watch Alex Mitchell shred up defences? Yes. But you have to say fair play to Ben Spencer and how good he is at it. He's his levels. He's just really good when it comes to that game plan. He honed it over years of playing for Saracens, obviously. So.
Yeah.
But
I suppose what probably also does still kind of work in Mitch's favour is also that the team had, by the time Mitch had his injury, the team had changed quite a bit. So that also people are working with, I suppose, different personnel. It'd be interesting to see what Mitch would be able to do with like you said, like a Roebuck and a Murley on the wing, like and a Finn Smith as well. That don't forget he didn't get to play with Finn either. And so it'd be interesting how actually if he was put into a team with them, and I still think his spot is safe above that. I mean, this isn't. I'm not saying that because like he's playing for Leicester, but there was a noticeable drop off in my opinion when Van Poortvliet came on. I still think Mitchell and Spencer are the out and out favourites. But I think it would be interesting to see like what Mitchell. Because don't forget that like nobody was playing well for like those four games really. Like nobody could put it together. Like the team had changed from round 4, and when they finally kind of clicked, like you said, I'd have really loved to have seen. It's a shame that Mitchell did get injured because I'd have loved to have seen what that performance against France and even Italy could have been like with the two of them together alongside. But you're right about. I mean, that was Tommy's best game of the tournament. Like they were just giving him the ball. And once you do that, he's bashing his way through the middle. And like I said, Finn's game, like I mean, that guy tackles an absolute ridiculous amount. He just throws himself into it. I wince every single time because I'm like, please leave it to the big guys. But that guy just throws himself into like all aspects of the game, and And yeah, I don't think there's any question mark over Coles either. Like, I mean, that guy's in, isn't he? Really? I mean, that was the kind of the whole point, I think, of Chesham coming in and was it 6 instead, because then you get to
Yeah.
you get to have all three of them on the pitch. And I also think I thought outside of the deliberate knock on at the end, that was Itoji's best game of the tournament by a mile as well. I felt like I felt like them, the three of them on, actually I felt like worked quite well.
No, I thought it was excellent. Like Chesham is a really really good player, and that pains me to
Yeah.
say. But he's class. Like, and he's getting more and more physical. He's brilliant. And Coles is, as we've said before, different breed. It's just there isn't a lock on the planet that can do what Coles can do. He like that pass he put out to Tommy at the last match or whatever it was. Like there aren't locks in the round that do that stuff as well as all the physical stuff. He's amazing. And then that performance with Itoje is, I think if you were an England fan, is just it's that hope that kills you almost sort of scenario, because he was excellent. I thought he was outstanding. I thought his ball carrying was the best it's been in a really long time, and that game is in him, and we've seen it. And we've like, but it's just for him. If he did that every week, he'd be up there amongst the upper echelons of the game in terms of recognised ability. But it just doesn't seem to come out of him every week, and I guess that's a thing he's got to work out. But he's getting a bit long in the tooth to try and work out those sort of things. Yeah, it's interesting. I think management would be really key to, if you can unlock the best of Itoje, you could probably unlock the best of England. But yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
but
It's
yeah,
like just a nice thing to see, two Saints lads get on the scoring sheet as well. I mean, I was absolutely just screaming with joy when Cosy and Primo got over, because I thought, obviously, England could have won right up until the end, but I just thought, at least we're getting some good Saints performances and something to cheer about as a Saints fan specifically. But and look, the Pollock thing is funny because they booed him before he came on, but then after the match, he's doing and to be fair to the guy, he's got the cojones to do it. Like, he was doing a lap afterwards, clapping at all the crowd, and like there'd be loads of players that would just be running back inside, being like, I don't want anything to do with that. And he just goes around quite a lot. I think the French supporters, it's almost like a pantomime thing. I think they intentionally do it, and then afterwards they're clapping and cheering him. I think quite a lot of them actually quite appreciate getting to sort of see him. There are still he put posts up about it, and some of the French comments underneath were absolutely vile. But that's, again, he's got massive balls to like put that up and leave the comments open, to be fair to the lad. But it's one of those where he made a mistake at the end of that game, which he will learn from and adapt. And he's still young, so he's got plenty of time. But it's a strange one with him at the moment. But I mean, I'm just looking forward to having them all back. We're not going to see all of them certainly not going to see all of them for Newcastle. I think some of them we physically can't, but yeah, it's going to be good to get them back into a Saints shirt and sort of see what we're used to seeing from them, because I feel like, except for in that last game, like they're just the coaching setup, and I don't just think this is Saints players. I just don't think they've been able to unlock the best of what the PREM has been offering, like on the international stage. I think that's what kind of frustrates me about that performance against France, because I was like, well, if you've just decided to take the reins off and tell them to, just go out and play and just screw the game plan we've been trying, or the tactics we've been trying, just go out there and play. I was like, you could have just told them to do that from round one. I think that's the frustrating thing sometimes. But
I don't think it's that simple. I don't think the messaging will have changed from the England coaching group. I just think it's the actual delivery of that message, and the getting the players in a mental state to go out and perform, and being a relaxed and encouraged and not confused approach is what it is. But it's just, it seems like they had nothing to lose. There's no consequences, so they went out and did what they were probably practicing and training all week, whereas they haven't been able to do that previously. But like you say, I
was going to say, the one thing I feel for Dingers, really, because I'm a big fan of Atkinson, but I don't think he did anything that warranted knocking Dingwall out the team. And I think with Dingwall with Tommy, I think it could have been the different call. So we know Dingers is our glue, isn't he? So he does everything. He's just an amazing player that's so underrated. And I don't think I'm not speaking bad of Atkinson. I just don't think he made any difference for dropping Dingwall, if I'm honest.
No, I agree.
I still don't think that's a fully set team, to be honest. I don't think that whole 1 to 23 is the definitive. This is the 1 to 23. It's a Nations Championship that's up next, isn't it, in terms of international rugby over the summer? Like, I still don't think that's a fully set team. It's a difficult one because, like you said, like Murley had a really good game. He's also had some absolute shockers, and I worry that he's almost a bit like Hendy with in a way, not the way they play, but in the fact that you can do something really good and something really, really bad, and both of them can have impacts on the game, but one of them's really positive and one of them's really negative. I still worry about his level of consistency. I mean, Roebuck was good. Is he better than some other people? I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's still necessarily like a fully set team to me. I still think they'll have questions over. I still think the team in that Nations Championship is going to look a lot more like what you saw in the first 3 weeks than what you saw in the last two, with some changes. I think they will go forward with Finn Smith over Ford, and I think Marcus Smith has cemented his place in that 23. Definitely, I think he's been really good every time he's come on off the bench. But I wouldn't say. I mean, I'm not the coaches, so I don't know. But I'd be surprised if they were fully set on that starting 15 definitively being the starting 15.
I think that's the underlying issue, isn't it? I don't think they know what their starting
No.
15 is, and I think they're still
Spoiled for choice.
They're spoiled for choice, and I think they're sort of still feeling around in the dark trying to find it, like picking, was it 5 sevens basically? You know, who's going to carry the ball and who's going to go over the game line for you? Like there's all sorts of there's all sorts of issues, but that's we've gone over it. But you know, thinking about the game of the weekend, you touched on it there. Like, I'd be surprised if that you see many of the internationals come back in. Maybe some of them drop into the bench. Maybe a few of them do start. I think it'll be case by case. Anyone who's had a knock, I don't imagine starting at all.
I mean, even if Coles hadn't have got an injury, he wouldn't have anyway. So he was always going to be not involved just because he's played every single game. Like, you know, we're not going to see Tommy. We could see Henry. I'd be surprised just because he still technically has played in all of them. Finn Smith. Finn Smith will definitely be one of those case by case ones, like because he could play because he only played 2 fixtures. It's just about where he is, you know, how he's feeling. Mitch, I think if his injury's okay and he's back, I would just get him in. If they're able to, like I said, it depends what the injury is and what stage it's at. You know, if he's fit to go, I sort of be tempted to be like getting back in as soon as possible because, like, I'm not saying that we're definitely going to beat Newcastle, but it is on paper at least an easier game this weekend than next weekend, and you want as many people in the form that you need them to be for what would be a massive game at Tottenham. But like you said, it's really hard to guess because we're not those individual players. So, you know, like, and we talked about this last week, like the mental and physical, like, aspect that it kind of takes out of you to go for a tournament like that. Like sometimes it isn't about, you know, like someone like Finn Smith, for example, it may not be about, oh, he only played 2 games. It might just be that even those 2 games, he's sort of mentally not where he wants to be. Like, you know, there are so many questions. But yeah, I'd be surprised if we really saw many of them. The only one that we'll probably definitely see is Manny, simply because he didn't play any time. So there's simply no reason for him to not come back in. But
he might have been beat up every week scrummaging against against what's his name, who played tight for England. I can't think of the bed, but like you might need the break mentally, you know, switch back on.
Yeah.
I think, you know, it's interesting because I think it almost perfect the way we go back into it because, you know, we can go with a side that's been largely going well in the PRC at home against the Red Bulls, maybe drop in a few players here and there, whatever, but you know, we can go into that game with that squad largely unchanged, but having played against the internationals through the training week, raised the standard, etc., etc. And then that game then the week after is a great, exciting game for those internationals to come back into because it'd be really exciting to play at that ground, big crowd, the game to really get against Sarri is a really game to get up for. So like suddenly, you know, everything can be put to the back of your mind regarding England because you've got something really meaty and exciting to take your focus and get back into. So, you know, and that's, you know, I'm sure it's exciting to get back to the Gardens and to play the way they play. And I don't mean to be disrespectful to Red Bull or really like that, but I just feel like that if there's one game that a rugby player would want to play in against those two, away at the Tottenham ground and sell out hopefully against Sarries is a really, really exciting game, whereas home against Newcastle has got a bit of Yeah, has it's one of those ones where it's an easy but banana skin, isn't it?
Yeah,
And so
Yeah.
I think the side will look something like maybe Manny comes back in, but
yeah.
yeah, I
I
wouldn't be
think,
surprised if it's like that.
yeah,
I guess Langdon will play.
Verbs. Verbs.
Yeah, Ferbs come
yeah.
in.
But I think you have to weigh it up also against like you want to. I know we lost in the semi-final, but I still feel like there's also an element of like rewarding the people that played in that block consistently and played well with a Prem start. Like
Yeah, yeah,
um because like you said, if it was against like literally a lesser Tigers or anyone that was a bit higher up in the table, like you'd really have to think about who do we want to bring back in that. And again, I said it's no disrespect to Red Bulls because we could, like I said, it's banana skin, we could absolutely just have a situation where that happens. But I'm just going off on on paper at the moment. That's on paper it suggests that's not what's going to happen. So yeah, you kind of have to weigh up the interest of those coming back, but also how do we you want to, and a lot of them have been re-signing anyway, right? A lot of the young talent, like this week it was Ollie Scholar, wasn't it, and Johnny Wyman,
yeah.
and we're keeping some people in, but also you want to repay their commitment and also their ability to play and how well they've been playing with starts in my mind with the ability to play against a Newcastle team, because like you said, they're probably going to relish that so much more than a tired Finn Smith coming back from international. And that's not to say he
Exactly.
wouldn't try. That's not to say he wouldn't try. I feel like I don't want anyone listening to say that I'm suggesting that he wouldn't care about it, because I don't think rugby players have that kind of ability necessarily. But I think so, like a James Pater, for example, starting for Newcastle is going to get a hell of a lot more out of it than a returning international, just in terms of that game. I'm not saying Pater's necessarily going to be available. He had his own international games and quite a lot of rugby, so I don't know where they're at either. But some of those young guys who've been playing really really well, and I still include like McFarland in that as well. Being able to kind of come in and keep putting names forward to themselves. Like I'd love to still see like Thakasau on the wing, Martin on the wing, for example. Like these players who've been playing really well, like Tame and Litchfield still, being able to come in and put big shifts in. Like you mentioned Olco earlier. Oh no, sorry, you mentioned it in the upcoming James Ramm bit about him. He's a young guy. He's been playing really really well, and you'd love to see what they can do against Newcastle. So yeah, they've got a lot of things to weigh, haven't they? I think that's why they've talked before about how it's quite difficult when they come back in, because you want to prioritize those individuals and how they're feeling, but you've also got a team that have been playing really well together and have been really enjoying playing together and have gotten to a knockout of a tournament. And how do we kind of essentially repay that like I said earlier, that commit and how well they've been playing. So yeah, there's a few
Yeah.
things to weigh up. I think you're right. I don't think the team's going to look super different from what the semi-final team looked like, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
Which is not a bad thing, because we're still going to see some big people in that, right? You
yeah,
still
yeah.
got
Lots of
yeah, yeah. You
Kemeny,
still got
JJ,
Kennedy's, your
Chip.
JJ's.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
It's
A Pearson as well. I suppose like you've still got some really really strong people in that, and then you've also, like I said, you get to see the likes of like a Pater, a Martin, a Kakasau, a Tame. Also within that, and then McParland at the moment is just absolutely flying high. So
yeah. Didn't Kemeny go off with HIA?
2 weeks
did.
though.
He
Hopefully he'll be all
Oh
right.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
He
I
did.
forgot.
Yeah,
I suppose the only issue is he has a history of that, and he did fail the HIA. So I suppose it just depends how long that takes to
yeah,
come
yeah.
back from. But we're lucky. The sort of same way with like Coles, right? Like he's obviously picked up the injury, and at least it's 2 weeks until the game that he would have been playing anyway. So there's time for some of these to hopefully come through that and be
I,
ready to go on the other side.
I,
But
I just don't hope we don't do another Ealing. Like I know the boys won't want to, but just don't underestimate him. Like you keep saying, banana skins. I remember back, God, like 10 years ago, Newcastle were our bogey team. They literally would turn up. When Tom May was playing, I remember he played fly half. He scored like 3 tries in about 10 minutes. Totally shut the gardens up, and they beat us. So
And that's what
you can't underestimate him, because
no,
I know
100%
they're
not.
bottom of the league, and they've got a lot of talent, and they're not gelling yet. And they've also just lost Alan, haven't they? He's left today.
yeah.
Alan
He's
Dickens
Yep.
left, so they've got
yeah.
Stephen Jones in place. But yeah, don't get. I'm sure they won't, but just don't go out on that pitch going, "Oh, well, this is an easy 5 points." This, because
But
that'll come
that's
back and bite you on the bum.
exactly that's the human element of the motivational thing. Like you say, Finn Smith will come back and give his all, right? But and he'll be very professional, and he's a professional rugby player, etc., etc., right? But there's still that human element of you know, everyone in every walk of life will do something, and and they've been doing it for years, and they'll do it to the best of their ability, but they haven't really got their teeth into it, their hands into it. They're really, they haven't got that sort of fire to get it done. Whereas, like Mitchell coming back in, he maybe wouldn't have the same thing. Whereas Archie McParland's still got the bit between his teeth, trying to prove his worth. And it's just that difference. And yes, one player might be better, but peaking at the right time and getting them mentally prepared. Like the game has moved on so much. It's about managing the mental sort of well-being and motivations as much as it is getting them physically fit. And people can say all they want about how that's tosh and how that's a lot of new age rubbish, but that's how elite performance works, and it's the 1%ers, because if you can get one person who's just peaking at the right time mentally and ready to go out and execute, as to someone else who's got a bit of mental fatigue from a long endurance Six Nations, the balance of the two is really what they have to balance up now. And it's fascinating, but I can't wait to Prem rugby. I just can't wait.
Yeah. It's like obviously, like, they call it like a team game, but I honestly feel like I'd describe rugby these days. It's a squad game. Like you just can't play these people week in, week out. It doesn't work that way. So you have to, base it on who is in form right now. And the reality is that who is in form right now, even with the semi-final loss, are the people that have been playing for the past 6, 7, 8 weeks, whatever it is in that block, right? And that's not going to be the same for always. Like, your Mitches and your Smiths, everyone's going to come back in, and then at some point, in the next couple of weeks, they'll be at their peak. And so, you need your squad, because, we know that all too well in the last season with all the injuries that happened towards the end. Even the season before, we just had a bucket load of injuries coming, and we perhaps weren't in as strong as a position as I'd say we maybe would be this season, like with some of the talent that we've got coming through. And so, like I said, it is literally like that peaking at the right time. And at the moment, the people that are peaking are kind of the young lads that have been going for 2 months and are absolutely raring to continue to do that. I think I agree. I don't think the team's going to be that much changed from this weekend. But, like Newcastle are a bogey team, but, we are absolutely capable in front of a Franklin's Gardens crowd of getting a win. And that would be a really great thing generally, but it's always nice to know that you'd keep your spot at the top, because I know we've still got a while to go in terms of like the season and the rounds, but the longer you keep yourself up there, the better your shots are of that top. Obviously you want the top 2, but definitively the top 4 if you keep yourself in and around that area. So we're in such a good position. A few weeks time it's Europe as well, so we're just in such a good position right now. But it really highlights that when you're competing on 2 fronts, and for the PRC we were competing on 3 fronts for quite a while. Like the squad depth is really, really important. It's another reason why I'm so impressed with the business that Saints have done this year. Like they made no bones about the fact that we'd have to lose players, but I mean the amount we've re-signed, I swear it's like 2-3 times more than I assumed we'd be able to keep hold of. Like there's obviously something special going on right now that we want to keep these guys. And obviously sometimes it comes up with Tom James leaving. It's probably the exact right time for him, and probably us as well as a club, considering who we've got coming through. At this stage he's probably third choice, and then Wyman's probably not far off of his heels either. So it's probably the right time for him to have made a move. And, signing Wyman is a really good thing to kind of help with that. But they're just doing such good business right now. Like Ollie Scholar is a crazy good player. He's gonna be so good in the future. To know that we get to keep hold of him as well for at least a few more years. That we're in such a good place at the moment. And the business has been incredibly successful this season, I think.
Yeah, Ollie Scholar's a good signing. I mean, he's got his partner's father was a bit of a Saints legend as well, Matty Stewart. So he's got a good voice at the dinner table in the evening, telling him what to do. But anyway, now talking of talented players leaving, we move on to our guest. Raised in Hunter Hill, New South Wales, his entry into the professional game was with the storied club Randwick in Sydney. He played for Australia's under-20s at the World Championship in 2018 before signing for the Waratahs, playing 20 times before packing his bags and coming over to Northampton. So far, 70 appearances and 160 points. Saint 2063, James Ramm. Hi, James. How you doing?
Good. Thank you, mate. Yeah, very good. How about yourself?
Yeah, all good, all good. Looking forward to a bit of Prem rugby this weekend.
Yes, definitely, definitely. I've loved sort of the last block in the PRC. It's been great, and it's a competition I absolutely love. But it's always nice to get back into the Prem and back into the swing of things, and for this nice run home.
The body's wearing well. You good to go?
Yeah, it's all pretty good. I've had just sort of the usual rugby soreness and niggles here and there over the past couple of weeks, but nothing too serious, which has been nice. And it's been a good block really to sort of get a bit of continuity, not just into me, but into a lot of the boys and get them back into some minutes, which has been really good.
Good, good. We normally start with sort of going back to your start in the game and everything and how you got into rugby. But before we get to that, I think we need to address the elephant in the room. And you're leaving us. You're going home.
Yes, we are. Yeah, it's sort of been a decision we've been pondering on for ages, my wife and I, and we absolutely loved our time at Saints and in Northampton, and we have no bad words to say at all about our time and our experience in the rugby here. But we were always going to go end up back home. Home's home, and we loved the experience that we've had here. But sort of the lure of probably some nice weather, and a home World Cup in Australia is definitely a target of mine. And to have the opportunity to go back and play back in Australia next year was sort of something we had to take. So yes, sort of sad to be leaving, but excited for the next chapter.
Yeah, definitely. I mean that World Cup back home must be, like you say, a real ambition or a real draw. And have you had any conversations with Les Kiss coming in, or any of the management or anything?
Yes, yeah, I've had a fair few conversations with the sort of Wallabies coaches, Joe Schmidt at the moment, and then Les Kiss, and lots of sort of back and forth. And yeah, that was definitely a big pull and a big part of the decision going back home. But they're sort of all very honest in saying that you've got to come and play well.
Yeah.
You're not sort of just going to slide into the team at all. So yeah, I think getting back into Super Rugby first of all and playing that style of rugby and in the heat and sort of often very fast style of rugby, I'll need to adjust to that pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, you're obviously going back to the force. I mean, like saying you're going home, that's quite of a stretch. When you're going back to Perth, it's like saying I'm going back to England and actually ended up in Turkey. But going back into that, Australian system, etc., and going back to the force, and the back three for Australia is a real strong area. The likes of Max Jorgensen, son of a former Saint, who's going really well, and Andrew Kellaway's been going well, former Saint, etc., and Tom Wright will come back with fitness, etc. And going into the force, they've signed Lomax, which will be an interesting, maybe in that sort of position as well. Um, is that a thought process you've had in terms of the competition?
Yes, back three definitely a strong point for Australia at the moment, and that sort of excites me. It's been a strong point for the Saints the whole time I've been here. It builds that competitiveness, and it makes each other get better, because if you want a spot in that team, you've got to be the best out of a good bunch. And yeah, like I said, it's something that's driven me here at the Saints for 4 years, and I've absolutely loved it. And I think the way Saints do that is very well done. They sort of encourage that competitiveness in every aspect. You're competing in everything, but it's such a friendly competition. It never gets snarky, or it never sort of goes over the line at all. But it's what breeds probably a lot of the success that the back three have had at Saints, and I'm hoping to enter something similar or bring something similar back home.
Right, yeah, no, I'm sure you can't wait to go and mix it amongst them, but plenty left to do in the green, black, and gold shirt first. So if we'll get on to your, so we'll start, yeah, thinking about yourself and you're starting to the game. So I understand you ended up at Randwick, but how did you get into the game as a whole?
I started playing rugby when I went to high school. I think I was 11, 12 maybe. I was a probably know, I was a gymnast before that, which was a bit of a weird introduction gymnastics to rugby. But yeah, started playing rugby when I went to school. I went to school at St Joseph's College in Sydney, which is a big rugby school. Sort of, you probably didn't really have the choice whether to play rugby or not. It was sort of you go and you play rugby, and loved it sort of from minute one. It was such a big part of the school, and I actually never got to play first 15. I was playing sort of seconds and third 15 at school. And the first 15 would walk around like gods. Everyone's like, that's where I want to be. That's definitely was a goal of mine. Never got to start a match for the first. And it could be that probably pushed me on after school to be like, I want to keep playing. I want to sort of prove myself. And I went to play at Ramwick from there. Actually, I had a year off, had a gap year, and then went to play for Ramwick and started in thirds Colts, which is like the thirds under 18s or 19s, whatever it is, and had fun, and it was very, very social level of rugby there. And then slowly made my way up into seconds and first Colts, and then the New South Wales under 20s picked me up from there, and I played a couple of seasons. They used to have a competition back there where you play all the other states. And then from there, got selected into the Australian under-20s, and then signed my first contract for the Waratahs. So yeah, it was sort of, I picked up rugby not late, but I'd never played it before going to high school, and then post high school was definitely a bit of a wave to ride. And thirds Colts, you're out on a Wednesday and a Saturday night, and you're having fun. It's a very social level. But yeah, I think I was lucky enough to be able to get picked up and picked out of that, and made my way up.
And to do it like at Randwick, I mean, Randwick is sort of a storied club. You look at the names that have come out of the Galloping Greens, whatever. The Ellers, Gregan. It's literally those who are big names out of Australian rugby have played at Randwick almost, it seems. I'm sure some Queenslanders might disagree, but it is the club to sort of come through that. What was it like? Is that part of the feeling when you're attached to a club like? I mean, you've also got Coogee Beast and Bondi down the road, but it's just a lovely part of the world. But like, it must. Does it feel like the history with the club when you wear that colour, where you wear the greens, etc.?
Yeah, definitely. It's such a recognisable jersey. For a club rugby team, you go anywhere in the world and most people know of Ramwick, and that's definitely part of the appeal of the club. And like you said, they've had legends there from day one, and they use that very well. They sort of make sure it's not forgotten, and they sort of not make you learn, but they teach you about the history of it when you go there. And I was lucky enough I was going to university out that way, which is why I went over and played for Ramwick, and I loved it ever since. Every training, every day, it's such good fun, such good competition. And they won the Shoot Shoot a couple of years ago now, and like I was watching the final over here. I just still feel so attached to it, and I love it.
Right, no, amazing. And you said there about the history. Is there overlaps in the way Saints approach the history? The way they sort of hopefully have it at the heart of the club. Is there a lot of overlap in that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you just walk around the stadium and you can see how much history there is, and they do a very good job of putting that on show. But it's also not just the history; it's more the style of play that really comes through at Saints that I feel like is such a big part and a backbone of the club. It's like very similar to what Ramwick and the running rugby they like to play. It's an exciting brand of rugby, and in recent years, seems to have done very well in the competition, but it's very good for spectators as well. It's good rugby to watch, and that was probably the strong thing that was bred into me when I came here from Sydney. It was like, this is the way we play, which was really nice crossover.
Fine. And before we get on to the time at Saints, just one thing you mentioned there about your gymnastic past, etc., and when we think, I think about the way you play and your strengths, etc. Obviously, I can assume the gymnastic comes in with a high ball and all those aspects at fullback. But you've also, you're a tall bloke, and when we think of you, we think of change of direction, line breaks, etc. Does that grounding in that balance from gymnastics, do you think that's a real strength that you sort of always had from that, or was it you've had it and it took you to gymnastics, or was it from gymnastics?
Yeah, I think it's definitely from gymnastics. I think I always say this, but I'll be putting my kids into gymnastics as soon as they can get there. I think it's such a good base to go off and do whatever you want to with it. It doesn't mean you have to go into rugby, and there's probably not that many people that go from gymnastics to rugby. But I think whatever you choose to do after gymnastics, you have such a good base set of skills and base sort of your coordination and your core strength and everything sets you up so well to go and do anything that you want to, whether that's social paddle and tennis, or if it's a professional sport. I think it's teaches you such good lessons physically, also mentally. I mean, it's a tough sport, but he breeds discipline. But yeah, physically, definitely, I think no matter what you go to after that, you'll be a step ahead.
Hi, James. So let's talk about Saints. And Saints got a big history of having a lot of Aussies back in the past. Like I'm a bit older than all of you on here, but I remember like Matt Connors, Shane Ramm, and most recently like Andrew Callaway, Rob Horn. Were they like the reason you came to the club because like you saw that they've had success, especially Andrew Callaway who came here? I think he was only here 1 year and he went back. Now he's in the Aussie squad. So
yeah, I think I talked to Rob Horn actually a fair bit about the prospect of coming over and seeing them do it and come over, and Kells as well. It did make it feel more, I don't know, felt a bit more like, yeah, they've done it before me, not as daunting. Because it's a hell of a move. It's a long way from home, and it's quite a big commitment. But having those guys to lean on when I was making a decision was really useful. And I mean, now even I came over with Angus Scott Young. We've got Josh Kemeny here. We had Charlie Savala for a year. We had Charlie Olko, young Aussie. So there's plenty of Aussies at the moment, and it makes it feel a bit more like home for sure.
yeah, I bet that really does help. So, what would you say then is your time? What's your highs and lows at the Saints that you've had so far?
Ooh, that's a good question. Rugby wise, in terms of the highs, I mean, to have a premiership is pretty special. Hard to go past, but I think game wise for me would be the semi final against Leinster.
Yeah.
I just hell of an atmosphere and what a way to end the game, and it just felt, you chase that feeling of winning a game and that feeling in the change room afterwards, and that epitomized everything that you play rugby for. It was just such a good trip and such a good game, and no one backed us. And it was just, yeah, that stands out for sure. The lows, injuries suck. I'm sure everyone says that, but my first season when I first got over here, I'd come over with an ankle injury, and then I got really sick. Had sort of some chest infection or something, and didn't play for the first half of the season really. And that was pretty tough. You'd move to a new place and trying to make new friends with the boys, but you're not playing, you're not really training much, and it wasn't the easiest introduction. But from then on, it's been a pretty good experience.
Yeah, but can I just elaborate on the Croke Park experience? You said that no one gave you a chance. So did that help and fuel the fire in all your bellies just to go like, we can go do these guys? Because it was an amazing, what a stadium to play in though, isn't it?
Yeah, hell of a stadium, for sure. Yeah, I think we did use that a little bit. Everyone, the media had written us off, and I think we don't often listen to much of the external noise when we're prepping for a game. But it was quite hard to avoid it, really. It was sort of everywhere. And I think we lent into that a little bit in the week. It might have been mentioned in a meeting, which is quite sort of, it doesn't happen. So I think, yeah, we were able to use that and it sort of let the pressure off. it was just like, no one's backing us here. Let's go and show what we can do.
Yeah, it was quite a special year, that European year, wasn't it? Especially as at the final as well. Shame on yourself, bless you. Didn't. I can't remember. You got injured straight away, didn't you?
Yeah.
But what an atmosphere that was as well at the Millennium Stadium, or Principalities we call it now. What about the Premiership winning year? What was that like? Like, as a probably being part of that whole thing, and like the big tour around the town, and like it took us 10 years to win it again. So
yeah, that was special. That would be one of the off-field moments that lives with me forever. Like the bus tour around the town on the next day. I didn't really know what to expect, and you talk to the older guys, and Douse had said, like, when he did it 10 years ago, it was special. But when we got on the bus at the stadium, there was obviously a few supporters around there. But then when you got into town and the streets are shut down and there's just thousands of people, I could not believe it. And like that's a memory that will stay with me forever for sure.
yeah, it was a very special day. Did you get a tattoo like a lot of the lads or not? Or is that too personal of a question? Sorry.
I didn't get a tattoo, but almost regret it now, and I think I've missed the boat. So we might have to win it again. We'll see what happens.
Oh yeah, you never know. We could do that this year. I'll pass you on to Jess then.
Yeah, perfect. But to be fair, before we think ahead about the Prem, I just want to take a step back a tiny bit. You mentioned that you really enjoy the PRC, so I just want to kind of get your thoughts on how you feel, not just the block we've just had, but how the whole kind of tournament went for the team, where you feel like the team are. Obviously, it was a disappointing semi-final result, but there were some really good performances. The last gasp win over Saris, for example. So, how did you find that kind of block as a whole?
Yeah, I'm always a big advocate for the PRC. It was my intro into the rugby here in my first year, and it just gives an opportunity for some of the younger lads, some of the boys that have been injured, some of the boys that are new, to showcase what they can do against quality opposition, because it's all the same teams and it might just be sort of a rotated squad. But I think, like you saw in this block, where a lot of the younger boys for us have stepped up and played so well and delivered some amazing moments. And I think that's why the competition's so good. The Six Nations or the international boys go away, and that's pretty much a whole backline for us. So there's a lot of gaps to fill there, and I think the boys this block just did so well in stepping up and playing the way that we train, which is all we really want to do. Those boys step out, these boys step in, and the game still looks the same, which was sort of the most important thing.
And how does that kind of week by week, because obviously it said the international boys go away, but even within who is kind of left at the Saints, there's still a lot of rotation in, people coming in and out, Ferb's coming back for a game, Hutchison coming back, and the under-20 boys playing for some but not able to play for others. So obviously you've got quite a lot of different people coming in, even from week in, week out basis. Like, how is that in terms of, like, I know a lot of them say that training is still the same, but how do you kind of feel the team is in terms of a cohesive unit, considering that you do have to have that kind of rotation? Does everybody feel kind of comfortable with everyone?
Yeah, 100%. I think the atmosphere that the coaches have created makes sure that no matter who drops in or who drops out, it's never a problem. It's never an issue to a boy who's might have been playing, but Hutch or Ferbs have come back. Like there's never any ill will with that, and they know that. It's they've come back from internationals to get some game time. But I think that's probably credit to the coaches and the atmosphere that they've created. And like I said at the start, it's pretty competitive, but it's competitive to the perfect degree, where it's never stepped over, and you want to be playing and training for your position, but you understand that it's a squad team and a squad game, and you need everyone. And Douse is very, very good in the meetings about saying how it's a squad effort. So be ready at any minute, because they could drop out at any minute as well. They could be called back up. So it's probably credit to the coaches, that the atmosphere they've created for that.
And in terms of, obviously, the Prem coming back this week, usually what we've had in the past is we always tend to get Leicester Tigers when we come back from the international, so we still don't have a lot of people, and it kind of affects. How are you guys approaching it when it's a bit different this year? It's Newcastle instead, who are still a tough side to beat on their day, but how are you guys kind of preparing for that and feeling for that game coming up this weekend?
I think it's not too dissimilar to how we've approached the PRC block, but it's just got that bit of extra buzz. It's a bit more exciting when you come into the meetings and it's like, right, we're back into the Prem, especially after the tough sort of semi-final exit for us, and we had the weekend off last week, which has been a nice sort of refresh. And then like the meetings today, it was like, right, we're back into it. We've worked so hard to get where we are now. Let's keep that going.
And obviously, going in to that game, top of the table, do you like on like a personal level, even on a team level, do you feel kind of pressure to kind of keep that up, or do you feel like actually, we're first for a reason, so we're just going to go and put that on the pitch? Like, how do you guys kind of feel about, there is a bit of a target on your backs, being top of the table?
Yeah, I think we're talking for the team, but I think I think we're sort of reveling in it a little bit. We've played some good rugby to get us here, which is giving us the confidence to go and keep doing that. I don't think it's there's extra pressure, added pressure. There's still plenty of rugby to be played this season. It's no one's winning anything in March. So it's more just like, let's continue this. Let's focus on how we're playing, how we want to play, and what we want to get on the park. And the results will come if we are able to perform.
And then, I just want to go ahead just a tiny bit, just to think about, that Saracens game. There've been lots of opportunities over the past few years to play in some amazing stadiums, and it's also going to be in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's being moved. How do you feel about playing in a big, famous, well-known stadium like that for a game?
Oh, lap it up! I love it. I think it's such a cool experience, and we've already played in some unreal stadiums over the past 4 seasons. I think I've timed my run very well here. I think the past 4 seasons we've had some unreal games. So I think it's just hopefully another one to add onto that list and make sure we soak it up and enjoy those moments, because obviously they don't come around very often playing at Hotspur Stadium. So I think nothing's been said of it yet, and Newcastle's definitely the main focus for this week. But I think it's something to look forward to.
And how excited kind of are you to, obviously we talked about, you're leaving at the end of the season, so I'm assuming that in terms of your goals for this season, you'd really love to win something as kind of a, final hurrah. So, how does it feel to still be, competing on those two fronts, both Prem and Europe, as we move on?
Yeah, that would be a dream way to go, wouldn't it? Win both. That would be lovely. I think last when was it? 2 years ago when we won the Prem, when it was Courtney's last year and Luds was leaving, and that was a big driver for us to make sure that we were able to let those legends of the club leave on a high. And by zero means am I anywhere near them. I would just like to win on it's an unreal way to go out, isn't it? To winning, everyone wants to win, but then to sign off at the Saints with trophies is a dream.
Yeah, and I just want to something that we always ask, players, just kind of get to know them a little bit in terms of like outside the game. So we always sort of ask people what they're into. But there seems to be a sort of common theme whenever we speak to someone sort of from Australia or from far away, that they love to come over and use it as like a springboard to kind of travel around Europe a little bit. Have you been able to do some of that whilst you've been here over the past few years?
Yes, every chance we get, we're on a plane. We've done a lot of travel, and it's such a bonus, an added bonus of being over on this side of the world, and being in Northampton especially. It's very central, so exploring England or the UK, it's not too bad. But sort of every long weekend we get, we're off somewhere, and trying to find some sun at this time of the year is quite tough. But we're big travelers, and we'll definitely miss that about being up here.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Angus. We did have him on, and he said his one part about Northampton is it's literally smack bang in the middle of the country, and so if he wanted to go to the beach, he's probably the worst the worst place he could have selected. But yeah, and then in terms of kind of like members of the team that you kind of hang out with, and what kind of things you get up to, in your downtime if you're not on a plane or in training.
Yeah, the backs unit at the Saints is also close. When I moved here, actually, the street that I'm living on, I think there was 6 boys on the 3 streets next to us, which was like crazy. And every minute you have off, you're down at the coffee shop, and you're in summer you're playing tennis at the courts down the road, or it's just I've never really been in an environment like it, and it's probably due to the fact that there's not a whole heap to do in Northampton. So every minute we have off, we're like, okay, what are we doing? Where are we going? Where are we going for dinner? Whose house? Who's hosting? And that's been such a nice part of the club. And I think still now there's 2 boys live on my street. Colsey's on the street over. A couple on the other side of the park. Like it's just, it's so nice. It really is, and it makes the downtime very fun.
Yeah. And I think just come back to something you said earlier. I think you mentioned, I'm always interested in this because I teach at university, but you mentioned you went to university and was just interested in what it is that you studied. Is that something you like maybe would plan to come back to at some point?
I'm still studying, actually. I am
Nice.
going very slowly. I'm actually currently sitting in my office doing some study now. I'm doing engineering degree, so I'm doing a
Oh.
sort of joint bachelor and masters, which is 5 years full time, and I'm in my 9th year now. So going very slowly, but it's just nice to have something to get away from the rugby sometimes. Come home after a big day and you need to clear the head. You've got something to take your mind off, and I would always advocate for people to have something to get their mind away from the rugby at sometimes.
And what was it about engineering that kind of interested you in it specifically?
Well, I wasn't I didn't leave school thinking I was going to be a rugby player, so I'd spent a long time trying to figure out what degree I wanted to do, and I'm doing biomedical engineering, and I just find that fascinating. I think it's such a growing field, and there's a lot going on constantly, whether it's the research or the sort of development or medicines, or I just, it was what interested me really. So it's definitely been on the back burner for a while, but hopefully I can finish it and some point use it after my rugby career would be nice.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna cross over just back to Simon, who has his question that we ask everyone. Oh no,
just
yeah,
before
go.
just before you jump in, I want to pick up on one of them. Like Jess said, Aussie's coming over here for a few years as a springboard to travel around, etc. My father actually did that 35 years ago with the intention of going home, and then 35 years and 5 kids later, he's still here. You just some Aussies you just can't get rid of. But where was your favourite place that you have travelled in the last few years? Where would you say was the best place?
That's really tough. We've done some cool places. I loved Albania. We went last summer, 2 summers ago maybe. I think it's just becoming a bit more commercialized, but it's still on the edge, and it feels less like a lot of the European coastal places where you can still go on a beach without having to buy a bed, and yeah, it's still sort of up and coming, which was really nice. And we hired a car and drove up the country, and it was just beautiful. So that would be near the top. Iceland was also unbelievable. We went at sort of, I think we went February a couple of years ago, and we were stuck there in a snowstorm, and that's kind of where you want to be if you're in a snowstorm, isn't it? It was beautiful, and I love that. We've done a lot of sort of Croatia and Greece, which are beautiful. We're actually getting married in Croatia this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So we love sort of the coastal areas. Yeah, I'm trying to think where else was amazing. We did sort of Central America last summer. not quite Europe, but still, yeah. Well, it's just been such an amazing part of the 4 years we've been here, and we've definitely made a lot of memories on the travelling side.
Right. The question I ask every player we have on is, who is the best player you played with, player you played against, and who would you love to play with? Like, if you could just sign someone and play with them right now.
Okay. Best player I played with. I wouldn't want him to know it. That's the problem.
Don't worry, he's not listening. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Alex Mitchell is just sort of a head and shoulders above a lot of halfbacks that I've ever played with. I think he was the one that surprised me most when I first came over. I think I'm a bit more used to playing with him now, which is nice. But yeah, I think sort of I remember the first couple of training sessions he was at, I was like, geez, he can play. Played against. God, that's a good question. Go another Saintsman, ex-Saintsman. Do you remember Tankeli Nayavoro?
Yeah, Big T.
Yeah, horrible. I was in the academy at Waratahs when he was playing there, and it was my first training session with the top squad, and he was opposite me, and I had a horrible day. And the last one was, what was the last one? Sorry.
If you could play with anybody, like bring him in right now. So just say Newcastle weekend, bring him in and play with him at your side, or anywhere on the pitch.
Ooh. Maybe. Oh, it's tough. Maybe someone like Finn Russell would be quite fun to play with. I think he's very relaxed, but sort of makes things just happen around him. And Finn Smith will hate me saying that. So.
Yeah, thank you very much. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks, James. That's been awesome to have you on. It's been really good, and all the best for the rest of the season. And I personally want you to go really well when you get home and get in that Wallaby squad for the World Cup. That'd be great. But thanks very much for being on. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
No,
thank you.
appreciate
Yeah, good
it,
luck.
guys. It's been unreal.
Good luck for your future.
Oh, thank you. Very nice to meet you all.
Yeah.
Cheers
You
now.
too.
Cheers. Thank you.